Juliette Binoche is here. In France, she is known simply as La Binoche. She has starred in critically acclaimed films like The Unbearable Lightness of Being, Chocolate, and The Clouds of Sils Maria. She won an Academy Award for The English Patient. Her latest film is called The 33. It depicts the 2010 Chilean mining disaster. She is, as all of you know, a proven stage actress. Currently, she plays Antigone in the classic tragedy. It premiered in London in March. I'm pleased to have her back at this table. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to see you on stage.
Thank you.
Was this an automatic yes when they asked you to do it?
Actually, it came from directors of the Barbican, the English Barbican, and Théâtre de la Ville in Luxembourg, and they wanted to do something with me.
And then they went in look of searching what it should be? In other words,
no, they wanted me to find a director I'd like to work with, and I proposed a name, and they didn't answer. There was a silence, and then when I said to them, well, why don't you propose me someone you'd like me to work with? And then they said Ivo Vanov would be an interesting director for you to meet, and so we met and talked about Greek tragedies, and I had seen Antigone when I was 18 years old, and I wanted to do it somehow. And Ivo was more into Electra Medea, but apparently I won. No, but he was happy. He was happy to go for Antigone. But we didn't have the translation yet, so we asked Anne Carson to be our wonderful translator, and she did the task, and beautifully.
Is this a good time for you? I mean, because you get to do a wonderful character like this. You continue to do films.
Oh, yes. I mean, I love both. I love both, I'm sorry. I love both.
Yeah. What do you love about this?
About doing Antigone?
Yes.
Myth, you know, myth has some hidden knowledge, and it's a way of looking in sort of human beings and trying to catch some kind of knowledge that the Greeks or the big, you know, it's not only a tale, it's there's something hidden behind it. And Oedipus, the myth of Oedipus is a big one. And Antigone is her latest daughter, and she is somehow the guide of Oedipus at the end of his life. And this play is, you know, Antigone she wants to heal the past. She wants to heal what her brother has done. He was the enemy of Thebes.
Yes.
And she turns to him, even though she knows he was an enemy. She wants to heal and try to transform from it. As Creon is trying to push him away, Creon is the king of Thebes. So it tells, you know, about somehow turn to what needs to be done and needs to be transformed.
This is where she says she's given her brother a proper burial, despite being forbidden by the king. Here it is.
Making that weird little bird sound. You know how they cry when they see the nest empty. So she cried, seeing the body bare. So she cried and called down curses on whoever did the deed. Then she pours water onto the body with both hands. She pours dust onto the body with both hands. 3 libations to crown the corpse.
And we rush out and take her. She seems unsurprised. She denies nothing.
Ben Brantley, who writes for the New York Times, as you may know, compared your performance in Antigone to Falconetti's performance in Carl Dreyer's The Passion of Joan of Arc.
She is, yeah, she's an icon. She's a reference to me. And Dreyer.
She's a reference, yes.
Oh, yes, definitely, because the inside world in her, in what she does, is a reference, because on her face it's like a landscape. There's so much happening, and it was Dreyer really was the first time that they were doing really close-ups like this in films. I mean, no, Griffith did it as well, and King Vidor, but. Yeah, there are some actresses that are inspiring, and she's one of them.
She's one of them, yeah. Why is Antigone so relevant to today? Because it was written 2,500 years ago.
Well, it is because Because first of all, it tells in a way. I think Antigone in a way is the other side of Creon. She's the feminine side of Creon that he doesn't want really turn to. And the feminine has a genuine way of being, to have sort of compassion. You know, you give birth, but also you bury the bodies you're giving birth to. And somehow, Creon doesn't want, you know, he's more into a control, he's into politics, wanted to control the situation of the city. And he's refusing Antigone's journey in a way. And that's why only at the end of the play, when he's lost his son, he's lost his wife, he realizes that he was wrong. Antigone means before birth, Antigone. And so she is in the principle of the ontological principles of life. She's going, we have to remember where we come from. And Antigone remembers, and that's why she can bury her brother without judging him. As Creon is a very Manichaean kind of way of seeing. There's the bad and there's the good, and he separates them. But Antigone says, you know, transform from some reality, because otherwise how do you transform if you don't start from the bad you have? And really that's going to the feminine part of oneself, is going to the unconscious side of ourselves, to the emotions that are not being lived yet, that you're not, all the responsibility you have to take, it's going into the emotions somehow. So that's what the myth of the Bible is saying also about Adam and Eve, you know, is that Adam has to turn into his not the woman in the right ribs, but to the feminine side of himself. It's another way of translating it. And this myth of Oedipus and that story of Antigone is part of it.
Do you work all the time?
I love
you have
working.
Lots of films coming out, but you do, it seems. I mean, between theater and film, how much time do you spend not doing anything?
You know, it's interesting because for me, when I work, it's not work, it's joy. Yes. When I work is the discovering of, and some parts of inside of me as well, and discovering the others. So I don't make a separation with the off time and the on time. For me, it's all the same, because when I'm in doing nothing, as you're saying, I'm already in prep.
Yes, for the next play.
For the next to nourish myself with life. And so I don't divide myself into bits.
Are there other classic roles you'd like to play?
I never know in advance. It depends on the person I'm meeting and I'm going to be doing something with. So it's never a sort of preconception of what I like to.
So you're not a seeker. It comes to you.
I'm definitely a seeker. No matter what. That's my aim in life.
To be a seeker.
To be a seeker, because that's how you learn. That's how.
Seeking what? Life.
Some kind of truth, something that resonates, something real and truthful to me. That's why being an actor is such a privileged position, because you're going through, you have to incarnate. It's not only a thinking thing. It's you have to really, in your body it has to resonate something true. Because words are words and they're beautifully written in the case of Antigone, but you have to make them alive. And I think when the writer writes, he's going through it, but then the actor has to really lift it into a place of truth with his own experience.
And how do you find that place of truth within your own experience?
Well, you spend time within yourself.
That's
you
training
spend time
as well. It's
training and when you can work many hours, but there's a moment of truth, which is when you're in front of the camera or in front of the audience.
But is there a moment of truth in which
you're alone? You're alone, and it happens while you're doing it. It happens in the moment you're doing it. There's a sort of a present, an instant that is almost eternal. And that's because in the present you can feel the treasure of beyond time. It's age. The inside of the time, there's no time, and that's what acting is for me.
Was there a time in preparation and in rehearsal leading up to the first performance that you thought you found her, or she?
No, every night I've found I'm
different?
catching something. Yeah, totally. I'm still finding things and learning things.
So this is a journey.
I know the actors that are always doing the same and repeating the same way. I cannot, because otherwise for me it's near death, and I don't like that sensation. I like to be alive and not know what's happening, and trying to listen every night as freshly as possible.
Okay, so how does the audience change the performance from night to night? And can you tell early?
I think, as an actor, you're given some information that is beyond your understanding and your capacity to understand. But you're catching some kind of things are coming to you as you're coming to them as well as an actor. So the catching of information has to do also with the sort of attention of that you can have from the audience, and the quality of the silence does a lot of it. From
Antigone to Maria Segovia in 33. Who are you portraying? Because on the one hand, you're portraying someone who's a great
minor
classic character, and another one, someone who's a real person who experienced extraordinary circumstances.
Exactly, and she is the sister of this other brother.
Right.
You're right to do a parallel like this,
yes,
brother.
Thank you very
much. And she's going to try and save him, and not only save her brother, but save the bunch of men being stuck there, because she was the mother of this Camp Hope, and she tried to really shake people to for the government to move their asses, because at the beginning they didn't want to do anything, and then when the media started filming the women and the families being there and being so angry because they wanted for the heads of this mine to do something, and they wouldn't do anything. They didn't know how to deal with it. Then when the media took over, then really the government went into it, and bravely.
Right,
they really put all their energy and money in it.
So, but what interests me and moves me is, what is it that causes one person to say, I'm not going to accept this. This is not tolerable.
I think it comes really from her. You cannot give an explanation because she was, abandoned very early on. She was an abandoned child. She took care of her brother and sisters very early on. She started working when she was 6 years old, doing empanadas. Yeah. She's a force of life, this woman, and so that's why they couldn't stop her. Yeah. And she was speaking very louder than others, and that's how it started really to take over the engine, to take over in this whole thing of saving those men.
But what's interesting to me too is that why is it some people, when there's a moment of truth, act, and others don't? Mm-hmm. It's character, perhaps, but perhaps it's
consciousness,
life experience, perhaps it's consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning?
When you're conscious of what you need to do, when you cannot bear something and you need to say it. That makes Mandela, that makes, special people, that they cannot live with the untruth or with, injustice. There's something about the need is stronger. The need of truth has to be stronger. That's why you react.
Roll tape. Here it is from 30. Just what we said. Was he convincing to you that he's going to do something?
Well, they proved it. Proved it. The government proved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. They really also allowed some help coming from outside and trying the best they could. It was really a work of a lot of people together.
What's interesting about this, to me, it is, in a sense, we all know what happened, yet we didn't necessarily know the drama within.
Right.
And therefore, even though we know they're going to come up, how the struggle was makes it interesting, and how difficult it was, and what human personalities were in conflict.
Yes. It's interesting because it was almost the world of man inside, stuck inside of the earth, and the world of women up, and technicians, men and the government and the technicians really putting it together to save those guys. But the force of women, I mean, the feminine force really also saved them very strong. That's my belief anyway.
Do you identify yourself as a strong woman?
Oh, I think I'm everything, and there's no strength without being vulnerable as well.
And you can have strength and be vulnerable at the same time. But
being rigid is a different story. Strength, I think, comes from being humble. That's my belief, actually. If you surrender, then you have another strength coming out. That's my...
Surrendered?
Yeah, I think
surrendered to what?
To your belief in that you're powerful. The belief... somehow you have to understand that you're not that powerful. And when you surrender, then there's another kind of relief and strength and freedom that comes.
I want to know who you are and what makes you tick and why you are the way you are and where does the talent come from and how do you want to express the talent. All of that is what I want to know. Because otherwise, I'm just delivering something that everybody else delivers at 1,000 interviews.
No, but how can you explain thirst? How can you explain the curiosity, the need of knowledge, the need of living?
It's not necessarily being able to explain where it comes from, although there is some linkage.
Because that nourishes me. The knowledge without wisdom doesn't interest me. Just reading books out of knowing doesn't interest me. But knowing through an experience of life, like acting is an experience of life because you lift it into your body, into your soul, then it has wisdom for me because it has a reality. I can feel it whether the writing is true or not if I live it. If it's bullshit, I know it almost immediately now because I've been in,
if the writing is bullshit.
Yeah. Because the moment the writer is in the writing, he has to involve himself in a certain way that he has to be aligned with himself. He has to be on a vertical. He has to be really in the truth of his own experience as being a human being on Earth. So,
Well, some people say that they're obviously part, certainly in terms of Russian literature, that you shouldn't play until you've been through love and loss and divorce and jealousy.
That's why,
and pain.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you can't do it. You've got nowhere to reach.
That is so true. And I think an actor is better and better as he's living his life.
Exactly.
Because
so you're better and better. You're better today than you were.
I think so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
You do know. You do know.
Yeah.
So what did you learn giving up love?
No, it's another way of loving after. I gave up my need.
Was there a vacuum or did you find a substitute?
Because the need was so big that suddenly when you feeling the feeling of being abandoned, because I felt abandoned by that love, then you have to, I believe that we have an animal nature and a divine nature, and we have to link those two. We're divided into, and as we're going in life...
Divine as in spiritual?
We start with the energy of an animal. We want to conquer. We go through all the emotions of jealousy, of all the needs, all this animal that is coming in us, through us, and we don't know how to deal with it. And at a certain point, I think that when you've been so much into the abyss of it and where there's no solution, then you have to let go somehow and transform and be in touch with your divine measure, if I may say.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Really is. We'll continue this.
Thank you.
Next time you visit here. 33 is the film, and Antigone is the play, which is opening. It opened in London in March. The movie opens in U.S. theaters on November 13th.